What's up guys, it's Celeste, and in my last video I had talked about that I was looking into health insurance for 2017 and also the fact that I got a job. And so I have a little bit of an update about both those things. I'll talk about the job first because that pretty much was my whole week last week, was just surrounding the job and everything. So I got this job. It was a temp job and it was supposed to last for a few months. I'm not sure the exact length it was supposed to last, but I ended up only staying for last week, and the reason for that is because just like I said that I kind of worried about, I really didn't feel ready at all to be jumping into a full-time job after not really working for 8 years. And I have to say I did better than I thought I would when it kind of came down to it. The first day was really hard. It was Halloween, and by the time I got home, I was so exhausted, I was so stressed that I basically wouldn't even talk, and basically just like cooked dinner as fast as I could, like whatever I could think of that was the fastest thing to cook, and made it and ate it, and then pretty much went to bed like almost immediately after that. So it was very stressful. And the next morning I got ready for work and was pretty stressed out. I had a migraine and it wouldn't go away, and I was really worried about going to work and being stuck there all day with this migraine. But so I had like a little bit of a breakdown and almost didn't go. But Jason, who again, I actually made a video talking about what our relationship is, and like I said in my last video, it takes a little bit of explanation, but I haven't posted it yet, so that's coming pretty soon. But anyway, Jason convinced me to go and call at lunch my temp agency and tell them what was going on, tell them I was having trouble with the schedule and everything. So that's what I did, and I agreed with them that I would work through Friday and then they would try to find me something more suitable. So basically what the problem was, I actually really liked the job. I mean, it was data entry, so it wasn't like, you know, super personally fulfilling or anything, but for me, that kind of work is actually really satisfying, to do something that's like a very finite thing that you have a task, you do it, and then you're done, and then you feel kind of accomplished. I like that feeling. I always liked doing like office work because of that. So that part was good. My coworkers were amazing. Like, everybody at this company was extremely nice, extremely helpful. Everybody helped each other out. Like, if you needed help with what you were working on, you could just ask somebody next to you, or you could go ask somebody else. And the whole environment there was just very collaborative and very, I don't know, just it was a very positive work environment. Definitely the best environment that I've ever worked in any other office or anything. So I had very mixed feelings about leaving the job, because if this job had been part-time and had been closer to where I live, I think it would have been like pretty much an almost perfect fit for me. But the commute there was about 40 to 45 minutes, which is a pretty long commute. Certainly a lot of people do commute that far or even farther every day, but for me it was very difficult. And my hours were 7:30 to 4:30, so pretty much like I would get up at like 4:30 or 5 and then leave at 6:30 and then not get home till 5:30. So almost half my day was taken up by this job suddenly, like out of nowhere, after being used to a certain routine for a very long time. I actually have a lot of shame feelings surrounding pretty much everything to do with working or jobs or money or anything like that. It's been really historically an issue for me, because I've had such really serious problems with depression and anxiety, like pretty much like worse than I think most people, even in my family, realize. It's been really hard for me to work full time. Like, it's just so exhausting for me. And I realize that for the last 8 years, I've been extremely privileged to not have to work, that I have somebody supporting me, which is, again, Jason, and to some degree my parents. It's just, I hate feeling dependent. I hate it so much. Like, it's really an issue for me. And sorry, now I'm getting emotional. But that's actually like why I'm kind of talking about this, because I have so much shame and so many issues surrounding this. And I really worry a lot about what people think of me, the fact that I haven't worked in so long, and the fact that I have so much trouble working. I really worry a lot that people think that I'm just making excuses, or that I'm just lazy or spoiled or whatever. And I mean, I absolutely like wonder those things myself a lot. I have a lot of like internalized feelings and criticism about this stuff. But I also know that not talking about that and hiding this and feeling ashamed, and then also feeling ashamed of how I feel, is really not good. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help me move forward. It doesn't help anybody else. It doesn't help anybody understand me. It doesn't help anybody else feel less alone. So it's pretty much the same reason that I'm making these videos, you know, for other aspects of my life, with, you know, gender and sexuality stuff. Like, even aside from that, just in general, I really, really sincerely believe that talking about things is like freedom. It's freedom not just for the person talking, but for the people listening. And I really hate talking when I get emotional, because I already kind of hate my voice, and it gets really shaky and stuff when I get like this. But trying not to hide things as much, trying not to edit myself as much, and so yeah. So anyway, like I said, this job was really excellent in a lot of ways, and I'm really pretty sad that that I am not doing it anymore in some ways, but it just was too difficult for me to keep up with the hours and the commute and everything. So I still am trying to find something else that I can do, because I really do want and need some income of my own. But that just, I feel like, wasn't the best fit, unfortunately, because it was such a good fit in some ways. But anyway, so that's my job update. And also, the sun keeps going behind the clouds and then coming back out and stuff, so sorry if the lighting keeps changing. I don't know. It's difficult trying to kind of work with the whims of nature. But I also have a little bit of an update with insurance, and it's not much of an update because I honestly had no time this past week to look into insurance or to sign up for anything, or really anything substantial. But I did get finally my packet from my current health insurance telling me what the current plan is going to be like next year, and they're actually supposed to send this, like, I think I was supposed to get this a couple weeks ago, but anyway, I got this only like 2 days ago. So anyway, I finally got it, and I looked through it, and there's a portion of it that I want to talk about. And just for a little bit of background, because I know most people don't really keep up with this kind of thing, but it's been obviously very relevant to me, so I've just found out about it within the last couple months, is that previously a lot of health insurance plans did not cover gender transition services at all. Like, they would just have a blanket exclusion for any gender-related stuff they just won't cover. And that was the case with my plan this year, and in previous years. But there was some legislation passed this year as like an amendment to the Affordable Care Act, to the non-discrimination portion of the act, that clarified that gender transition services can no longer be excluded as like a blanket thing. They can no longer say, we don't cover gender transition services at all. And this is only for plans that receive federal funding. So obviously everything on the healthcare marketplace falls into that category, but some private insurance, either, you know, that you buy yourself or that you get through your employer, doesn't necessarily have to follow this, although some of them do. So anyway, they passed this legislation that clarified that, and it does not necessarily mean that they have to cover all these things, but it means that they can no longer say, we don't cover any of this for any reason. And it also clarifies that things that the plan covers for another medical reason, if you have those done for reasons of gender dysphoria, they can't say, well, we're not going to cover it for gender dysphoria. Like, for example, with top surgery, they can't say, well, we cover mastectomy for breast cancer, but we won't cover it for gender dysphoria, because gender dysphoria is a medical diagnosis that you can get from a medical professional. So under this legislation, it's been clarified now that that would constitute discrimination, and they can't do that. However, if they don't cover the procedure or the service at all, for any reason, then they don't have to cover it. They don't have to cover anything that they don't want to, basically. So back to my plan. Got this packet, and I looked through it because I wanted to see if there was any mention of the fact that they gotten rid of the exclusion, which there is. And there's an additional amendment as well, which I got really excited about when I saw it. So I'm going to show it to you, and then I'm going to read it. Okay. It says, gender reassignment surgery and services related to gender dysphoria or gender transition are covered. That's huge, you guys. Like, that explicitly says that they will cover gender transition. And this, again, this plan, up until this point, has had a blanket exclusion on all gender-related services. So for them to now explicitly say that they're covering it is really exciting for me. Like I mentioned last week, though, I have it's kind of a bittersweet feeling because I don't know if this is really going to matter that much to me because my deductible is so high. It's now $6,900. So by the time I paid that, it probably isn't really going to impact my surgery situation that much, but it could help some. And just the fact that it's in there, it makes me really happy because, I mean, it might not help me very much, but I'm sure that other people are being affected by this and are able to now get things covered that they weren't able to get covered before. And you might have noticed there is a section under this category of exclusions. It's a list of exclusions. It says that they will not cover this for things that are done for cosmetic reasons. And it does not list on here mastectomy. It has breast augmentation on there, but it doesn't say anything about removing the breasts. And I believe the reason for that, and this is my interpretation of this, I haven't called anybody there, I haven't talked to anybody, but this is my interpretation of this, is that, like I said before, they have to, like, they can't discriminate a particular service or procedure for reasons of gender dysphoria if they cover it for a other medically necessary reason. So breast augmentation is not something that anybody ever medically has to do other than gender dysphoria. I'm not saying that it's not medically necessary if you are assigned male at birth or otherwise looking for breast augmentation as part of your transition. Yes, absolutely, it should be medically necessary. But in terms of whether insurance has to cover it or not, there aren't other reasons why you would have breast augmentation for medical reasons. Whereas, you know, if you have breast cancer or other health issues, you might have your breast removed for that. So the mastectomy would be covered for that. Therefore, they would have to cover it for gender dysphoria. Again, that's just my interpretation of this, but based on the other things on this list, which are all pretty much cosmetic things like facelift and voice modification surgery, you know, those aren't things, again, that are typically done for other medical reasons other than gender transition. So they don't have to cover it because of that. So obviously, if they don't have to cover it, you know, they're going to take that opportunity and say that they're not going to cover it. But hopefully in the future, they will cover these things because I really feel like this legislation is an indication of like change and progress that's happening in the health-related world, that that doctors and other medical professionals, as well as, you know, organizations of medical professionals and the government, who is in charge of handling all this stuff, is saying that gender dysphoria is a real thing, that it's a medical thing that deserves medical treatment. And in fact, in the legislation I'm talking about, the wording is very inclusive. So it actually, I can't think of the wording off the top of my head, but it basically, it includes people who are not binary trans people. So it covers non-binary people, gender non-conforming people, or whatever. It's very inclusive. So that makes me really happy to see that kind of initiative and, you know, progress taking place in the health fields as well as the government. It just makes me really glad to see that, you know, we're getting some recognition and some validation from professionals, that it's not just this thing that people are making up. And I think more people are starting to see that. So I'm going to have to look into this a lot more, obviously, and probably call the insurance company and find out some specifics about this. But I kind of feel like it's better to have this bittersweet feeling, even if it doesn't work out for me. Just the fact, like I said, that this is in there is a really huge deal. And it just makes me really happy to see that. So that's probably all I have for this particular update this week. And I've got some other videos coming up. I am going to be posting the video that I've made about my weird little relationship with Jason pretty soon, because I have that ready to go. And I got some messages or some comments on some of my previous videos from somebody who had some really interesting things that they brought up, and some questions that they had, or I don't know, like their perspective on things, their own experience, as well as questions they had for me. So I'm going to actually make a video addressing that, because they brought up a lot of things that I think probably other people are wondering or have thought about and maybe have opinions about. So it seemed like a good jumping off point. So I'm going to do a video response to that pretty soon. And I actually have a whole list going now of video topics that I'm going to be covering. So I'm sure I'll get to them all eventually, hopefully sooner rather than later, now that I have a little bit more free time. Yeah, so I will be working on those, and I will see you guys in the next video.